It's a secret society. All they ask is trust. And let's get into it. Blessings to the Most High, Yahweh. Blessings to the ancestors. Blessings to the universe. Thank you for joining me on Magnetic Intuition. And you know I got another topic for you. You know, as I adjust the screen, I gotta admit, I enjoy destroying my enemies. You know, playing a nice guy role all my life, it really showed how weak my enemies were. And I realized that until I take accountability for who I am, I couldn't have never been this fearless. You understand what I'm saying? So you really have to play life like a game of chess, right? Never put yourself in a victim mentality. Because everyone has enemies, whether you know it or not. Regardless of whether you know it or not, everyone has enemies. So when you put yourself in a victim mentality, you're basically giving your enemies the power. And you don't want to do that. Especially if you're working with the Most High Yahweh, right? That's your father. Some may say mother and father. It's all good. However you want to take it, right? As long as you're angelic energy and your energy is high and you're high vibrational, I'm with you. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, I had to bring up another topic for y'all, and this one may be a bit mind-blowing. And the reason why, it's nothing new, the topic, but it is something that the majority of the population don't know about, right? And now, in my community, in the so-called black community, right? In America, people just can't get together and do anything, right? We have some good people, we have many bad people, right? It's America. What do we expect, right? So, there's a lot of agents in the black community, more than ever, right? Because anyone that's against the so-called black community is more than likely devil energy, right? Because your typical person that's Caucasian, that's Hispanic, that's of Asian descent, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and etc., right? And every other Nigerian, for people from Africa, Nigerians, Ghanaians, Ethiopians. As long as they have angelic energy, they're not worried about you not making it or getting over on them, right? Because they have the energy of the Most High, right? But unfortunately, people are taught to hate Americans, especially black Americans, right? More or less when they come in the country as foreigners, they're taught to hate black Americans, right? So I'm just talking about skin color. I'm not talking about like where you're from. If you're American and you're black, then you're gonna have these issues. So the bigger problem is not necessarily everybody hating black Americans, but it's the fact that they just can't get it together. And the simple reason why is because the church, right? And this boils down to the pastor, right? And of course, you have pastors out here that are here for the better good of people and the Most High, right? To bring them closer to the Most High, right? Well, we have a little secret here that has to be revealed. Most of the pastors in the black communities are Freemason pastors. And their goal is like the Bole, is like any agent that's trying to destroy. That's devil energy, right? So you can't build a community if their number one asset in the community is the church, right? Just like back in slavery, they used to use the pastors. They groomed the pastors to basically hold back the revolts, right? To have the master as God, right? So it's the same thing. It doesn't stop, right? It's still here. Now you have these devil worshiping guys that come in and become pastors. And they know the book, they read it, they study it, they go to school for it and everything. But they're on the wrong side, they're on the devil's side. So when they're referring to God, they're not referring to the same God we think of, right? The Most High Yahweh, the Creator. They don't use that. And of course, we don't think about it, right? Because we're thinking that they're talking about the same God because they hold such a high role, right? In our lives, right? So, the black community basically puts the pastor as the median, as the middleman, right? To the Most High, right? But if this pastor is polluted with devil energy, then that's going to cut off your train of thought, right? Because they're going to teach you a different way. They're going to teach you things in the Bible, but they're going to teach it in their way. And whichever way they do in Freemason, right? Whichever way they use, maybe they mix things like paganism with Christianity, right? Or etc. However they decide to, or the Bible with paganism, right? And then they tell the congregation the wrong ways to go, right? And they try to lead them the wrong way, right? And this is what pulls a lot of people away from the church. And ultimately, their ultimate goal is to put you in the church to keep you confused. And if you don't go to church, then they pray that you don't care about the Most High, your Creator, Most High Yahweh. They pray that you just give up on life, and live in devil energy. So there's a situation I had when I was in my beginning stages, when I found out what was going on, when I found out that I was being attacked, and when I had murder attempts on my life, right? And the first thing that everyone was trying to do was trying to get me to go to the church. And guess what? The Freemason pastor was waiting right there for me. Listen, when I was going to church with my Eastern Star sister, we used to sit in a special seat. Literally, we used to sit in a special seat. Like every time I went to church with her, we sat in this particular seat, right? And of course, I didn't catch on, I'm just like, all right, this is where she likes sitting. But nah, it was designated for me, literally. Like, I'm not even playing with y'all when I tell you that it was designated for me. So even when I was talking to an Eastern Star colleague, and I thought the chick was angel, was angelic energy, was for the Most High, the actual Creator, and she was even telling me like, hey, when I was telling her what I was going through with the secret societies and the government, she was like, she gave me an example. She was like, yeah, her neighbor, I think I said this in another video, but she said that her neighbor was going through something similar, and the only thing he does is go to church. He doesn't go anywhere else. Even when he comes to my house and he lives right across the street, he carries his gun. You understand what I'm saying? So basically, it's almost like they push you in the church, but they push you into their church. You understand what I'm saying? And unfortunately, a lot of these Christian churches are ran by Freemasonry, and that's just the reality. Even one of the guys I grew up with back in New York, coming up in New York, right? Because I moved from New York when I was 12, 13 years old and moved to Houston, Texas. Even with him, his father was a Freemason pastor. I don't know if he's still pastor or not, but he was. And I'm telling you, man, he's one of the coolest guys like you'll ever meet. I promise you, man. These people, some of these people, like, they've never done like any wrong to me, you know? Like, these are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, seriously. His son was like one of the coolest people I knew, right? But the reality is what's going on behind the scenes, you understand what I'm saying? And that's where things get sticky. What's the big agenda? The small agenda is to look like you're doing good for the community. You're doing community service. You know, you serve your country and, you know, went into war and all that. And we salute you for that. But on a bigger scale, what are you doing behind the scenes? Are you helping transporting kids? Are you sacrificing family members? Are you help sacrificing other people out there? Homeless people, innocent people? What are you doing behind the scenes? Because if you're just worshiping the devil and you're not hurting anybody, that's your business. Can't nobody force you to do anything, but you're not hurting anyone. But of course, with devil energy, there has to be some type of chaos that goes on. It just doesn't sit like that. Like, people that are of angelic energy, or even people that don't care about doing devilish acts, they can live life like that. They can live life not doing anything to anyone, and everybody just minds their business, right? But when you're in devil energy and you're in these cults, it doesn't quite work like that. Like, you must, if you're active, you're active, or else they're gonna kill you. So, hey, you know, that's why I urge that if you're in these cults, get out of it now. Get out of it now, because when the bubble pops, whenever a button is pressed, there's no going back. There's no going back. So just be wise, and hey, if you don't want to listen to me, at least listen to your creator. That's the least you could do. You understand what I'm saying? The devil's not your creator. Actually, you're doing more work for the devil than you're doing for yourself. So just keep that in mind. But anyhow, the biggest problem in the so-called black community is the Freemason pastor, without a doubt. So I think people just have to take their spiritual power and go directly to the Most High versus going to these pastors. You know, if they're not a Freemason pastor, then hey, I'm not talking about them. You know, I'm not talking about them. But if they are, yeah, I am, and that's probably like the majority of the U.S. black pastors. Like, for real. It's infiltrated with devil worshiping. Like, it's crazy. And some members know, and some members don't, you know? So, anyway, thank you for joining me on Magnetic Intuition. Blessings until the next one. Stay prayed up, stay blessed. I'm out.